I thought you were going to start the meeting then.
I wouldn't dare.
Geez, this guy's really bad himself.
Good morning.
Good morning, councillors, CEO and directors. The traditional custodians of the land on which we are privileged to meet and the land that we call home represent a human link dating back over 40,000 years as part of one of the oldest living cultures on the planet. We pay our respects to the Indigenous elders of the Yuwi people in our region and recognise their continuing connection to our land and our community. And councillors, because this is a special week marking the 20th anniversary of the recognition of the South Sea Island community as a discriminated and disadvantaged race by the Queensland Government, today we pay our respects to the elders of our South Sea Island community because we have the largest South Sea Island community in Australia. Now, as you know, the public are still not able to be admitted to our council meeting because of the social distancing and gathering requirements of the COVID pandemic that we're still within. So whilst we have no members of the public here, we welcome our online viewers through our YouTube channel and also through our Facebook Live. I declare the meeting open and thank you for your attendance, councillors. The opening prayer today is from Salvation Army, Captain Stephen Spencer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let us pray. Father God, we thank you for the gift of life and those who are sharing in the birth today. But we also pray for the fallen who have succumbed to the passages of time. We think of Tim Mulhern, of his family, friends, co-workers, and indeed his legacy, his example of public service to Mackay and to the state of Queensland. Lord God, we acknowledge you as the creator, the governor and preserver. Today, these elected officials sit in governance. I pray for honesty. For those who have called to a life of service to oversee the region known as the Makai, I pray for integrity. To families, friends, and lifelong connections who continue legacies learnt from history to better today, to prosper the future, I pray for wisdom. So Lord, may the decisions of this body of persons be made with clarity of mind and of spirit. Lord, guide this council to be a beacon of wisdom, integrity and honesty within our community. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Captain Spencer. So let's move on. There's nobody absent on council business. Apologies, there's no apologies today. We have a leave of absence request from Councillor Bella to deal with. Would somebody like to move that Councillor Bella be granted leave of absence for the council meeting of the 23rd of September? Councillor Hassan, seconded by Councillor Englert. Those in favour? Any against? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Condolences, councillors. There's a couple today. With the council's wish behind it, I'd like to offer our condolences to a long-term employee of Council, Bruce Nayland. Bruce started his time as a ganger at Queen's Park with the old Mackay City. He transferred as an arborist over to the Pioneer Shire in those days. Eventually came back into the new Mackay City and then ended up as a leading hand in beach protection for the Mackay Regional Council. And so we would like to send his family our condolences as a council and recognise his long-term employment with the Mackay Regional Council. And as Captain Spencer just said, I think our council, it goes without saying that we offer our condolences to Erin Mulheron and the wider family in Tim's passing. There'll be much more to be said about Tim Mulheron over the next few days. His funeral will be a state funeral next week, and marking the fact that 20 years as the local member, more recently, of course, as the chair of Mackay Hospitals and Health Service, as the deputy chair of Harrop Park Country Club, and a myriad of other community service organisations that Tim had a hand in. It was, even though we knew he was sick, it was still a shock to hear of his passing this week. So, councillors, I know you will endorse council sending our sincere condolences to the Mulheron family. Are there any further condolences? No further condolences, let's move on. Conflicts of interest, anybody to declare a conflict of interest today? Nobody to declare a conflict of interest? The confirmation of the minutes of the 26th of August, which was the ordinary meeting of the 26th of August, they were circulated, we had nothing come back. Somebody'd like to move their adoption. Councillor Mann moves, Councillor Jones seconds. Those in favour? Any against? It's carried, thank you. There's no business arising out of the minutes. There's no mayoral minutes today. So let's move on to the consideration of committee reports and recommendations. First of all is the facilitating development in the Mackay region policy, and that's an MCU for the Northern Beaches Emporium at 1 to 11 Carl Street. So this has been circulated, councillors. It's still fairly straightforward. Are there any questions attached to this? No questions? Would somebody like to move its adoption? Councillor Englert moves, seconded by Councillor Mann. Councillor Englert.
Thank you, Worship. This is a low-impact industrial and commercial development in rural view, as you said. The applicant has announced 2 key anchor tenants at the site, being Mobile and Queensland X-Ray. There's 2 current development approvals over the site, and they've requested a 90% concession. However, the schedule suggests that it's more appropriate for a concession of 25% over one DA and 50 over the other. And I tend to agree with the officer's recommendation.
Thank you very much. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. Thank you. Correspondence and officers report. Office of the Mayor and CEO, the report for August. CEO.
Thank you. The report's been slightly restructured. All the information that was previously in there is either in there or the director reports. I'd like to draw councillors' attention to, we've had unfortunately our first LTI. It's not a serious LTI, other than all injuries are serious and we're looking into it, but just to note that we have investigated and we are very much looking at learnings from that LTI. As well as that, I'd like to say I had the privilege of joining the Mayor with the Council of Mayors meeting up in Bowen. It's a rotating meeting, and I got to meet our regional CEOs and mayors, and as well as that, heard from a number of state departments that gave update briefings, as well as some other organisational groups as well. And happy to take any questions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, CEO. Questions for the CEO? No questions for the CEO? You're getting awful light with CEO, so thank you very much. Would somebody like to move the reports adoption? Councillor May moves, seconded by Councillor Hassan. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. And welcome to Michael for your first CEO's report. Thank you for that. Just a couple of highlights that I'd like to draw out. Our Council and Community Day, it's really good to be able to, in somewhat restructured form, because we can't meet with the community, but it was good for councillors to get out, and particularly our new councillors to get out and have a look at council assets and oversee the site at Finch-Hatton where the mountain bike track is proposed to be constructed. So a really good day was had by all of the councillors that attended that day. Also, it's good to see the enterprise agreement negotiations recommencing, and we look forward to that progressing along. I really wanted to mention this next point about the external grant funding, and you can see there, just for the month of August, $7.6 million worth of funding. And I just checked with our director a minute ago. We have one person working in this particular area, and you think about the amount of money that our council has been able to secure through grant funding. That staff person does an absolutely fantastic job, and I just wanted to draw that out. The Dalrymple Road landslip, the micro-piling, there's been some slight hiccups there with the micro-piling, and we hope that that can be worked through and we get to the conclusion of that piece of work. And the last point I wanted to make was around the Greater Whitsunday Council of Mayors. And I really just wanted to highlight, I think that the great job of the three councils working together and being that voice of the Greater Whitsunday region on behalf of the three councils, I think that goes a long way in making us a voice of the North Queensland area. And the three mayors and the CEOs come together on a regular basis, and we go forward with that one voice, and I think that you guys are doing a fantastic job in that space, so well done.
Thanks very much, Councillor May. Speaker against? Are there any other speakers? Councillor Bonaventura speaking for.
Thank you, Your Worship. But just in relation to congratulations to the CEO on his first report too. But under the summary of key projects and initiatives, I note that the continuing meetings of the COVID-19 working group is continuing, and I thank the CEO for the efforts he's going to achieve social distance requirements within our organisation, over the whole organisation. Unfortunately, I note in some public venues outside council, we are starting to get a bit lax on following guidelines. Yes, it can be difficult at times, but I encourage councillors to abide by these rules when they are in public and set an example that will be there for others to see. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thanks very much, Councillor Bonaventura. Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. 11.1.2 is the Council Conference attendance at the Developing Northern Australia Conference. Now, there's been a couple of changes to the agenda item here in terms of the number of councillors attending. Council's happy to accept the latest agenda item, which is recommending that Councillor Karen May, Councillor Michelle Green, Councillor Pauline Townsend be the representatives to go to this particular conference. Councillor May is a panel chair at the conference, and of course our PDA is being presented by our director. I note that you've got an amendment, but we have to have a motion on the table before we can amend it, Councillor Bella. So if you're happy to go ahead with that, the withdrawal of those two councils from the original agenda, is everybody happy with that?
Yep.
Okay, so if there's no questions on this at this stage, well, you've got a question, Councillor Bonaventura?
Yeah, just for a start, if you wouldn't mind, Your Worship. Look, apart from the director who's presenting, are any other staff going to this conference?
I don't think so. CEO? No, just the director.
Thank you.
And as I said, Councillor May is a panel chair, so. Are there other questions? No other questions? Would somebody like to move?
Okay.
Councillor May moves, seconded by Councillor Mann. Councillor Bella, you've got an amendment?
I'd like to move an amendment to the motion.
Certainly. So the amendment is that Council, here it is, that Council endorse the attendance of two attendees at the estimated cost of $4,400 in total at the Developing Northern Australia Conference in Rockhampton, and further that any extra attendees who wish to attend, the costs associated to Council are capped at $4,400. Moved by Councillor Bella. Seconder? We have a seconder. Councillor Jones? Councillor Bella.
I'd move this amendment to limit councillors' ability to attend any event. However, I feel that more than two councillors to many of these is excessive, and there is excessive cost involved. Thus, the object of this motion is to cap the cost commensurate with two attendees. Should there be any further desire by other councillors to attend, that cost can be spread amongst those that decide to go, and the shortfall will be made up by those individual councillors. I think that it is a responsible approach to this sort of thing, and I think that in most of these things, no more can be brought back to council by 4, 5 and 6 than can be brought back by 2. Once again, it is not to limit councillors' travel, it is merely to limit their outgoings in regard to this.
Thanks, Councillor Bella. Speaker against? Are there any other speakers? No other speakers. This is an amendment to the motion that's already before the council. So the amendment, as outlined there on the board and in your agenda papers, I'll put the amendment. Those in favour of the amendment? Those against? The amendment is lost. So let's move back to the motion. So the motion is that we have Councillor May, Councillor Green, Councillor Pauline Townsend attend the Developing Northern Australia Conference. Councillor May, do you wish to speak to it?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Look, this is a rare opportunity for a conference of this calibre to be on our doorstep. Councillors may remember in the last term, the Executive Officer and myself travelled to Karratha in Western Australia to attend the conference there 2 years ago. And it was a very fulfilling experience. We brought back a report to the council highlighting some of the strengths of attending that conference, being part of that Northern Australia cohort of towns and cities, local governments, state departments, universities, a whole range of people that come together to discuss what's happening in Northern Australia. And if our council chooses not to be part of that, that's a very sad day, and it's a very big missed opportunity for us. So I just like to draw out some of the things that are on the agenda and some of the things that, that we would be attending while we were down there. And of course, our own director is presenting on the Mackay waterfront. What a great experience to showcase the Mackay PDA at a conference of that calibre with attendees from all over Northern Australia. The other thing that is of interest to myself is the National Flood and the North Queensland Flood Recovery Response Agency presentation that'll be taking place. The building remote and regional waste collection partnerships to address the packaging material flows, all very relevant to council business. Growing regional professional capital through collaboration. Again, a very useful piece of information I'm sure will come out of that. So the national resilience and the role of the North in that, and as we know in North Queensland and Northern Australia, we are impacted the most through natural disasters. One of the statistics that's come to the fore through QRA actually is that Queensland is probably at the top of that list, and North Queensland in particular. So I think as council we have a role to play in taking advantage of such a high calibre conference that's, like I said, just at our doorstep, that we can go, we can attend, and you'll see in the conference agenda there is concurrent sessions, so having 2 or 3 or a number of councillors goes enables you to attend, have every councillor going to a particular session so that we don't miss any of the information. I think also, just from a perspective of your own personal development and making sure that we're equipped with the knowledge that we need to be able to do our jobs as councillor, to be in that strategic thinking space and the development of our regional council area, it is really, really important that we attend conferences such as this. And we are blessed this year because it's just down the road.
Thank you very much. Councillor May, Speaker against. Councillor Ballard.
I will be voting against this motion. I have no problem with 3 attending. I have no problem with 2 attending. I do, however, at the consideration of the cost being projected $2,200 per councillor, I find it's manifestly excessive to expect more than the 2. I think I'm very happy it's come back from what could have been an $11,000 to $12,000 expenditure to $6,600. And in speaking, I would like to ask the councillors that do attend to consider contributing the $700 each to make up for the extra $2,200 that the third councillor would take it up to. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ballard. Speaker for. Councillor Bonaventura speaking for.
Yes, you will.
Okay, good.
Look, I agree. I voted for the amendment. I would prefer to have seen 2 councillors attend this event. But even in our own report, under consultation and communication, it states that, as per council policy, a report on the conference will be tabled at a future meeting by attending councillors. I have listened to some very good reports by Councillor May and Councillor Mann, giving me a clear picture of what was at those conferences that they attended. So I certainly do look forward to getting that report from those councillors on what was there and enlightening me and other councillors what was at that conference, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bonaventura. Speaker against. Councillor Jones speaking against.
Thank you, Your Worship. While I'm pleased that councillors have reduced the numbers attending from 5, I'm sure that the community would have seen 5 attending as a junket and not a good look for those councillors, or for that matter, a reasonable spend of ratepayers' money.
Councillor Jones, please don't refer to junkets and link our council with it.
I'll continue.
Councillor
I'm
Engler,
just letting
thank you.
everybody know that I won't support 3, as I still think 2 is appropriate. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Speaker 4. No other speaker. Councillor Green, speaking 4.
Thank you, Your Worship. Every councillor in this room is passionate about our region and passionate about advocating for the North Queensland's fair yet elusive share of the funding pie. The Developing Northern Australian Conference is a platform to unite professionals, government representatives and members of Parliament to promote the importance of the continuing development of Northern Australia. The role of the local government councillor is clearly defined to set the strategic direction of council. Therefore, I will take this incredible opportunity to network with leaders, investors, industry representatives and key decision makers, the who's who in the zoo, so to speak. And in the face of a rapidly changing future, I will take this opportunity to connect with a plethora of professionals, to be educated, inspired and well informed as this council stands on the cusp of setting the strategic direction for the next 5 years for the Makai region to ensure strong socio-economic prosperity and jobs for the future. And I will take this opportunity to show my support for the advancement of our northern regions, educating others about our region and what we can do for them. It's our job to do all of this. We are the leaders of our region. We each have our individual passions, interests and knowledge to share and must push the barrow of why others should live, work, play and invest in our region. It's not the work of 1 or 2 councillors at an event of this magnitude and import. Indeed, this year the conference organisers are highlighting the importance of networking and are offering specialty networking sessions to connect with industry leaders, decision makers and company representatives. I'm always mindful of how we spend ratepayers' money. And yes, I would normally only advocate for 1 or 2 councillors to attend a conference. However, this conference is of great significance and timing, and it's my opinion that the more of us present and representing our region, the greater the collective impact of Mackay Regional Council at the conference, as well as a significantly greater amount of information gathered and connections created. There is value in spending money when there is a return on investment. In this case, $2,200 per councillor to attend has the potential to unlock millions in business investment and government funding to our region through networking and advocating for our region with the key decision makers as we align our strategic plan with the federal government's 20-year plan for unlocking and developing Northern Australia. Sitting in Gordon Street will never achieve this outcome. Given the fears and restrictions around travel and mixing in these COVID times, it's my opinion that we are blessed. This opportunity is literally on our doorstep and in a COVID-safe bubble. And as I said before, timed beautifully to coincide with the development of our corporate plan, Council's key strategic planning document to set the strategic direction for our region for the next 5 years. This is the job we've been elected to do, and I intend to take every opportunity provided to me to do it well.
Thank you very much, Councillor Green. Speaker against. Are there any other speakers? No other speakers?
I'd just like my right of reply, Your Worship.
Yes, certainly. Exercise the right of reply. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Look, I don't ever come to this council meeting with the view of taking a conference for the fun of it. I consider it a very important part of my role as being an elected member, and I'm always willing to bring back that information and share with my fellow councillors and the greater directorates of the departments of our council as well. So it is an absolute insult to think that this is being viewed as a junket, because I can tell you from where I stand, it is not. The costs involved in sending 3 councillors to a conference like of this calibre that happens to be in our backyard this year, I think is more of an investment rather than a cost. It is an opportunity of which we must take advantage of. And if we really want to be a dot on the map in the Northern Australia arena, we need to be present at conferences such as this. If we only want to live in our own backyard and do as our neighbours do and not advance ourselves any further, then we shouldn't go at all. But I don't think that's what the Mackay regional people want for our community. They want to see their council leading the way, investing in our future, doing that with having gained some knowledge from experiences such as this. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor May. And I remind councillors that this comes out of a budget allocation. This is not new money. This is budgeted money. If we were at the end of the year and we had expended the travel and education budget for councillors, it would be a different case. We've spent nothing out of it. So, and I agree with the arguments so far in terms of it is in Rockhampton, we need to support Northern Australia. And as I understand it, the three councillors are going to drive to Rockhampton and back. So the total estimate of $2,200 may not even be achieved, because the fee for the conference actually includes the meals as well. So look, I think it's well worthwhile supporting, and I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? It's 2 against. The motion is carried. Let's move on. 11.1.3, a petition response to the highlight to the state candidates. And we had this before. We had a briefing on this. The highlight to the state candidates in the Isaacs but Sunday Makai region of the importance of a rehabilitation facility. Are there any questions on this? Fairly well straightforward, and the petition response is there. No questions? Somebody like to move the petition response be adopted? Councillor Mann, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Councillor Mann. Okay, it's fairly well straightforward. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. Thank you. Let's move on to some reports now from directors. Capital Works, first of all, 11.2.1, a Capital Works monthly review for August. Director Carlos, where is it? Here.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just like to point out a few aspects of August's report for the Capital Works Department. Again, we've got no lost time injuries, which is good news, and only one minor incident, which is a reduction from last month. So that's very good to see, and good to see an improvement continually in that space of safety. In terms of the spend for the year to date is just under 10 million at 9.9, so it's a little bit under where our forecasts were, but nothing of concern at this stage, and there is a list in the report of some of the projects and the reasons they're slightly behind on the projected forecast spend. Again, I'd like to highlight some of the projects that were completed in August. So there was about 10 projects that were completed. They're all from the 1920 carryover, but good to see those getting knocked off and completed as projected. And I'd just like to point out the field services teams that are working on some of our more remote projects. Some of the councillors had a look at one of those at Gorge Road last week, and that's on track, and they're doing a very good job in a relatively confined space out there to complete that very important work, almost a kilometre of drainage upgrades and surfacing of that road. Also at Ball Bay Road, which is obviously servicing one of our communities and the only road in and out to that community, and again on track to complete before the wet season really hits us, and Smith's Cross Road as well. So just like to point out the good job that field services teams are doing on those remote community works. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Rice. Director, are there questions for the Director on this report? No questions?
No.
Right. Okay, would somebody like to move the report's adoption? Councillor Jones moves, Councillor Anglin seconds. Councillor Jones?
Nothing to say, Your Worship.
Okay. I'll put the motion then. Do you have something to say, Councillor Bonaventura? You want to speak to the report?
To the motion, yes, Your Worship.
Certainly.
Just 2 points I'd like to raise, Your Worship. Just under the Portfolio Management Office section, I am pleased to see a multi-criteria assessment tool was introduced to the SLPT last month as a test run for some live concepts. I personally look forward to some results from that and see what improvements you gain from that. And secondly, in the design summary report, I note that the majority of projects there were not those sexy above ground ones, but they were for sewerage, an area that provides essential service to the community, and I thank the Director for remembering that is the area that we need to keep our finger on the pulse. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Bonaventura. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Councillor Seymour speaking for.
Our council trip to Piney Valley last week was like a homecoming for me, back in grade 7 when the primary school at Finchatten there. One of the places we visited was the Gorge Road, and I take when we drove in, there was 11 shuttles parked up, but a quick phone call from my director and they were all operational by the time we drove out. Council are doing part of promoting tourism in these areas by making access to these remote areas more accessible. With the mountain bike project high on the agenda, Council agenda, it is necessary for these projects to go forward. Good tourism destinations bring road traffic, and you drive Mackay Younger Road, it is not a good tourist drive. With upcoming state election, I welcome all candidates to get in the back seat of a bus, go for a drive along what is the busiest tourist destination in the Mackay region, but I'll pick the bus. Road funding is always a major election statement, but you need good roads to get tourists to access these areas in comfort. So I'm urging all candidates to go back to their powers to be and make this one of their election promises.
Thank you very much, Councillor Seymour. And when that road comes by you, Director, I'm sure it'll be handled exceptionally well. Councillor Engler speaking for.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, we've talked about a lot of it, but I just wanted to highlight basically the capping of a bridge replacement at Bloomsbury. This bridge is regularly damaged, and the bridge work consists of a 12.5 metre span that's 5.5 metres wide. Now, this is a new technology we're trialling, where the prefabricated deck units of reinforced steel bars are actually placed in situ. So those are being manufactured off-site and will be transported. So this is a new technology that we're investigating at the moment, and if it proves to be successful, will ultimately reduce costs to ratepayers over the next 20 years. So I look forward to seeing the outcomes of that particular project.
Thanks very much, Councillor Engler. And Councillor Green speaking for. Certainly.
Yeah, just short and sweet. I'd like to comment on the delivery of a number of sport and recreational projects this month. Council continues to deliver a stream of upgrades to our parks, playgrounds and pathways. And while many of these are relatively minor works, they are nonetheless critical ingredients in promoting a healthy outdoor activity and improving connectivity across our region and the livability of our region. So well done to all the teams involved. And I'm looking forward to experiencing the new inclusive facilities at the lagoon when the weather warms up a little bit, and the water.
Thank you very much, Councillor Green. Councillor, I'll come to you. You can have a right reply, Councillor Jones. Councillor Mann speaking for.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to mention safety, as I always do. It's really pleasing to see no LTIs and one incident. It's a great focus of all the workers in this department to make sure their co-workers go home safely every day, and I ask the Director to pass on my thanks at our focus on workplace health and safety all the time.
Thank you very much. And are there any other speakers? Councillor Jones, you can provide a reply.
Thank you, Worship. I'd just like to applaud Council for their commitment around boat ramps and car park extensions in this report. Contract services on page 47 talks about the Victor Creek, Camperham Beach, Murray Creek, Halliday Bay car park areas that are currently underway and will be finished completion for the Victor Creek and Camperham Beach late September, which is great. And that the Murray Creek, Halliday Bay car park and their footpath early March 2021. So it's great that we have a beachside community that loves their fishing, and the fact that, Council are on board with creating more ramps, being that we are 15 ramps short within our region for the amount of boating registrations within our area. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jones. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Director. Let's move on. 11.3.1, the Community and Client Services Monthly Review for August. Director Hayes, here is.
Thank you, Your Worship. So during August, there were many notable activities and achievements throughout the Community and Climate Services Directorate. That said, I'd like to focus on just a couple of the most outstanding right now. Now, when the budget was adopted in June, Council approved funds for our special COVID-19 Recovery Assistance Grant, which is now recently closed. In the first few weeks of the grant round, applications were coming in quite slowly. However, with some increased promotion, we've ended up with an exceptional uptake. Over the 10-week period of this grant round, we have approved 228 applications, providing over $900,000 to community organisations in our region. I'd just like to say a big thank you and congratulations on a job well done to our community programs team, and in particular to Robert and Leah, who have done the lion's share of the work to administer this grant. I'd also like to sincerely thank the accounts payable team for their support and help to get the payments out to these impacted community organisations so quickly. Now, the other highlight that I'd like to mention is the Makai Festival sessions that the MECC team have delivered to the community over 4 Saturdays in August. Over the course of these 4 sessions, we were able to showcase the talents of 22 local music performers and 4 local dance schools. The sessions were all live streamed from the theatre, and to date we've reached over 82,000 people and have exceeded 32,000 views. Last month, Mary, you noted that the volume of views at the time was equivalent to filling the theatre 8 times. Current numbers are now equal to more than 30 sell-out shows in our theatre. So thank you, Mayor, for emceeing these events for us, and a huge thank you to all of the staff at the MECC who have demonstrated their passion, commitment, flexibility and skill delivering such a professional product for our region. Thank you. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Director. And certainly the uptake on our COVID community grants has been outstanding. As the Director said, slow at first, but to have $900,000, and thank you, councillors, for adopting that in the budget, to have $900,000 to go into our community to help our organisations who couldn't pay electricity or couldn't pay insurances or whatever it was because they had no members putting subs in. It was an absolutely outstanding result for our community. And I think the Director summed it up perfectly by saying her team processed it really well and the accounts team got it out sometimes within 24 hours. And that was an outstanding result. So our congratulations, Director, and through to our Director of Corporate Services for her and her team as well. Are there questions for the Director? Councillor Bell.
Questions on a couple of different subjects. The first being the star rating of food businesses. I noticed that we inspected 27 premises and there were 4 inspections that received a no-star rating. My question is, were they 4 individual businesses or was it a follow-up inspection on one particular business? The first would not be a good thing. I think the second scenario, however, would show that our staff are actually really going hard at trying to make things right.
Director.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the 4 0-star ratings or businesses that were inspected in August were 4 separate businesses in this instance. However, one was a home-based business and they've since voluntarily closed. The other 3 were takeaway businesses and they all previously held 3 stars, so had slipped since the last inspection. Now, one has already achieved back to the 3-star rating again through the work that they've completed, and recent inspections have confirmed that. And the other 2 undertook some immediate improvements while our officer was still on site during that last inspection, and will continue to do the work to achieve back at that level.
Councillor Dale.
I'll move on to the next one, but just I'd like to highlight that I'm very pleased that even though it was 4 businesses that are in that situation, that one's already back, and I assume there will be further inspections and assistance to get them back to standard. It's wonderful. My other question, I note the hours spent on pest control, which I think is commendable, and we've seen an upswing on that. However, I'd like to ask whether we could be provided in the report with a list of what pest species we face in our region, level of infestation, whether we're winning, losing or holding ground with the work we're doing, and possibly what future threats we face and the impact of those. And that should give us an idea whether the resource that we're pointing at the problem is being effective or whether we've just got a couple of people out there fighting a losing battle. And I think that's not only not good for our region, it's also not good for the people that are desperately trying to hold it back. So I'm wondering whether we could structure something along those lines. And I also note, quite alarmingly, that we are now the pest fish capital of Australia. I find that very disappointing.
So, Director, is it possible to do a singular report to Council, or can we wrap it up in our monthly review?
Your Worship, I might have to take that away and just have a look. I'm sure we'll be able to provide the information. We'll just see if it's something that we can reasonably provide every month to add into the report, or if it's something that's best sent out separate.
A singular report to bring us up to date, but whatever we can include in the monthly report gives us a chance to focus on it month by month. And I think That's probably what we should be doing at this stage. And the note by Councillor Ballard about the tilapia and the test fish, we've had that on the agenda, but being able to be reminded of it every month would be very good.
Certainly.
Okay. Did you have another one, Councillor Ballard?
No, I'll speak to the motions.
Okay. Well, are there other questions for the Director? No other questions? Thank you very much, Director. Could somebody like to move the... Councillor Bella moves, Councillor Townsend seconds. Councillor Bella.
I'd just like to go back over the things that I spoke about or questioned about at the moment, the pest issue. I have no criticism whatsoever of the effort our staff are putting in. I just feel that we've got to recognise the problem, recognise where we are with the problem, and try and get a hold on whether we are directing enough resources at it. It was quite alarming to me to not only see the article in the Mercury this morning, but also only last week in a supermarket in the Makai region to witness someone quite happily standing in front of a counter in the deli buying green prawns to go fishing. And that's an absolute no-no. It risks white spot becoming an endemic disease in our wild population. Some of these pests don't only affect industry, they affect our livability of our region. Certain plant pests, animal pests destroy our natural environment. I also believe that we should be looking, once we get some sort of guideline as to where we stand, where we get basically a real-time analysis that may take in seasonal fluctuations, things like that. I received a notification of a type of sedge, which people might think is not much, but it has a massive impact on agriculture. It's up on the Attendant tablelands and it's expected to come down here at some point. But I believe we should possibly be looking at some sort of awareness, educational recognition program for the people in our region, because by the time we've noticed it, it's already too long. And I've said many, many times, 1 year's seedings, 10 years weeding. And I think that prawn issue, that was out there, it was advertised, it was hammered only 3 or 4 years ago. And we've got the same problem occurring again. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Bella. Speaker against? Are there any other speakers? Okay, certainly I'll go. Councillor Townsend, speaking for.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to highlight some of the things that I found quite brilliant through the month of August. There were some fantastic highlights through the course of this month, and I believe the staff are very worthy of a mention here. Our director has already talked about the MECC, but I would like to just throw my own personal slant on that. They delivered 4 very high quality and thoroughly entertaining Makai Festival sessions over 4 weeks. Each session was being live streamed from the theatre via Facebook Live to both local audiences and the general public through Facebook Live. This was a brand new concept for the MECC, and I just wanted to acknowledge and congratulate the technical crew, the set designers, the audio-visual teams who went above and beyond to make what was basically a live TV show. To a total of approximately 26,600 viewers. Of also my understanding that some of these were viewers from overseas. So how amazing is that? Our little township or our community made an impression overseas. We can be also very proud of our talented local entertainers who gave it their time and who highlighted to me the amazing talent that we have here within our own region. I also wanted to acknowledge the celebration of our selfless seniors who volunteer of their time in the community. The foyer of Jubilee Community Centre displayed photographs of these seniors with fantastic results. The shots were just perfect. They captured each of those ones beautifully, and so congratulations also to the photographers. I'd like to mention our libraries. We continue to see increased numbers utilising our services, and it was great to see that some of our programs that have been cancelled due to COVID are being reintroduced and supported very well by our community.
Thanks, Councillor Townsend. Councillor Green, were you speaking for the motion?
Yes, Your Honour.
Your Worship.
That'll be 20 days.
I'd like to take this chance to promote the launch of the Spring Fit Challenge 2020. Yourself, Councillor Hassan and I, along with the Spring Fit ambassadors, helped to launch the program in our active wear at the Black Beach Steps. I think the Mayor lost that dress code memo on the way. The campaign is developed to get our community active, with a variety of great prizes up for grabs, and there are numerous free Get Active Council-run activities on offer that I really do encourage people to seek out. I'd also like to acknowledge the continuing great work of the Sport and Rec officers as they liaise with numerous sporting clubs to get their return to play COVID-safe plans in order so that their sports can be reactivated. This is no small task and their hard work is certainly appreciated. And finally, I am pleased to see the local laws officers have increased their focus on proactive animal patrols to reinforce responsible pet ownership. 34 proactive patrols were completed in August, resulting in 10 cautions, 3 educations and 2 infringements being issued and 4 dogs impounded. I know many residents will be thankful for Council's increased presence in this area.
Thanks, Councillor Green. Councillor Jones, were you speaking for the motion? Okay. Are there other speakers? Councillor Bonaventura.
No, thank you, Your Worship. Look, most of this has been said. I'd like to echo Councillor Green's words in relation to the return to play. I think that's very, very important, and I too like to congratulate staff on what they're doing in that area. But just briefly, and you have mentioned it, the 228 groups, I think, that have received our COVID grants, Your Worship, you know, they're all not-for-profit groups. They're all run by volunteers, if I'm not wrong. And we constantly hear ads about, you know, look after your mental health during COVID, etc., etc. The fact that many of those groups would have been struggling, would have been wondering how they were going to survive through these COVID times. The fact that Council has come to the party with those grants, I believe has solved a lot of their issues, has reduced a lot of that mental stress, and again, I'd like to thank, the same as you did, to thank councillors for endorsing that measure in the budget, Your Worship. I think it's been a great initiative.
Thanks, Councillor Bonaventura. Are there other speakers? Councillor May.
Thank you very much.
For?
Yes, please, Your Worship. I really just wanted to highlight the visitors to our museums, 187 visitors in the month of August. And as we know, in our Council and Community Day, we visited the Morani Museum. And it just, you know, just highlights to me the great work that our volunteers do. They are so passionate about showcasing the region, showcasing the objects that they have in each individual museum across our region. And it's great to see that the public is now allowed back in and our volunteers are welcoming them. The other part that I wanted to highlight out of the report, and we've talked about the MECC and the festival sessions, but the artists that painted on the night, I just think how tremendous of a job was that when we ended up with 4 brilliant art pieces, starting from scratch, and working in the behind the scenes part there, and there's some examples of that in the report, and I just think they need to be congratulated as well. The other part that I really wanted to mention was the revamping of Connecting Makai. It is one of the tools that Council uses to be able to engage with our community, and the corporate communications team have done a revamp on that, and I think that's fantastic.
Thanks very much, Councillor May. Other speakers? Councillor Jones, you wish to speak now?
Yeah, I do. Thank you. Thanks, Your Worship. I just wanted to raise that the person-centred emergency preparedness workshop for our staff and for the SES people was very interesting to read in the agenda. And I say that because the person-centred emergency preparedness workshop is all about how our staff and volunteers just take that extra special care and attention around emergency situations with people in our community that have special needs. I'm certainly very interested in this program, and I look forward to the opportunity that the Director has already lined up for me to meet with the staff member to learn more about this wonderful concept within our agenda today. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Jones. Are there any other speakers? No other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. So let's move on now to the org. In terms of org services, 11.4.1, is the lease of land for the Rotary Club of the Pioneer Valley. This is fairly well straightforward. Are there questions? No questions. Would somebody like to move then the report's adoption? Councillor Englert moves. Councillor Mann seconds. Councillor Englert.
As you said, thank you, Worship, it's pretty straightforward. Rotary Club of the Pioneer Valley has needed some additional storage space for some time now, and this is probably the most advantageous outcome for both them and the council.
Yep. Thank you. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried. There's no petitions to be received today at agenda item 12. Agenda item 13, tenders. We've got two on our agenda today, councillors. Tender number 069 is the lease of the portion of the Seaforth Community Hall. Straightforward. Are there questions? No questions? Would somebody like to move that report's adoption? Councillor Englert moves, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Councillor Englert.
Thank you, Worship. So the request is to lease off a part of the Seaforth Community Hall for the purpose of establishing a community pharmacy. The hall has had a decline in recent years for booking, and this will go largely towards the maintenance costs. And so this is, again, represents a really advantageous outcome for the council and that community, but the community will have multiple benefits, including health services, essential pharmaceuticals, and employment of local residents as a result of this co-sharing.
Thank you. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried unanimously. 13.2, the tender 005, the management of the Serena Swim Centre. Are there questions around this one? Once again, it's a fairly good report, straightforward. Somebody like to move? Councillor May moves, seconded by Councillor Hassan. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. It's good to see this tender being finalised. Pat Wright Swim School has held a tender previously and has done a fantastic job in delivering swimming facilities and managing the facilities in the Serena area. Under her stewardship, we have seen the attendance grow at the Serena Swim Centre, and I think with the awarding of this tender, we can still look forward to more good things to come. So congratulations to our tenderer.
Yeah. Speaker against? Any other speakers? No other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. So, councillors, we don't have notified motions. There's no public participation. It's late business. Councillor May.
Thank you very much. I feel like I'm up and down like a yo-yo today. Thank you very much, Your Worship. I really just wanted to highlight in late business that tomorrow, Thursday, the 10th of September, is Are You OK Day. And Are You OK Day is a national day of action dedicated to reminding everyone that on this day is to ask that question to your fellow friends, your workmates, your family, are you okay? And the message for this year is that there's more to say after Are You OK? So it's about having that broader conversation. It's about checking in on people, checking in on your friends and your family, your workmates. And because we can't have any events this year, it's a very different format. There's normally, you know, like the workplace barbecues and things that are happening. So the Are You OK are encouraging people to make sure that they still have that check-in at morning tea or at lunchtime in your workplace to make sure that your workmates and family and friends are okay. I think also too, in this particular year, given the COVID pandemic, now more than ever, that this is a really strong message that we need to be harnessing and delivering to our community. So tomorrow, if you get a few minutes to check in on your family and friends and your workmates and ask, are you okay, please do.
Thank you very much, Councillor May. Further items of late business, councillors? No further items of late business. We have three standard reports to consider as confidential reports. I think they're all fairly well standard and fairly straightforward. Does anybody see a need to move into a confidential mode for council? Nobody? Let's deal with them then. 17.1 is the Audit Committee minutes of the meeting of the 27th of August 2020. Have a mover. Councillor Englert moves. Councillor Mann seconds. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. 17.2, the draft minutes of the Invest Makai events and conference attraction program for the advisory committee meeting on the 10th of August. Somebody move. Councillor Green moves. Councillor Englert seconds. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. 17.3, the Mackay Regional Planning Scheme amendments. Major amendment number 2 and the administrative amendment number 8. Somebody like to move? Councillor Bonaventura moves. Councillor Townsend seconds. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. So thank you, councillors. Thank you, CEO. Thank you, directors. I declare the meeting closed.